afternoon. I am W.D. Foster Graham, and I'm the book review editor for Inside News. I am also the host for today's Book Chat Thursday on The Conversation with Al McFarlane. The Conversation with Al McFarlane covers all aspects of the African and African American diaspora, with very interesting, enlightening, empowering, entertaining, stimulating conversations. We have recently passed 1,200 subscribers, and we are shooting for 2,000. So if you like our content, definitely like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let your friends and family know about it, because we definitely appreciate it. Now, today's Book Chat Thursday is one that's very near and dear to my heart, because I think about growing up as a child in the 1950s, going to see books in the library and books at school, and not seeing children who look like me. And I am so very honored to have our panelists on this show for discuss Black children's books. Now, definitely, and when I think of that, I think of this African proverb, and says, until the lion tells his side of the story, the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. And so I'd like to take a moment to introduce each of my distinguished panelists and lovers of Black children's books, as well as those children of color. Bennie Brown is a married mother of one and a stepmother of three who resides in a suburb of Minneapolis, Minnesota. After the kids grew up and got their own lives, she was able to sit down and create, as well as compile the Bible stories and lessons learned based on teachings that expanded over 20 years. Our next panelist is Lena Bee. And Lena Bee is an award-winning author and expert in early childhood education with over a dozen awards for her debut book, Naptime. Lena's writing focuses on social and emotional development, addressing adverse childhood experiences through poetic and captivating language. With her background as an early childhood teacher and center director, Lena crafts stories and resources for teachers and parents, equipping young children with essential preschool skills for kindergarten readiness. Lena books include lesson plans and activities for home and classroom use. She has just released her second book entitled My Rainbow Days. And this book explores the 7 colors of the rainbow, the 7 days of the week, and 7 big feelings young children experience every day. And her book, My Rainbow Days, is available at Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon. And last but not least, our third panelist is Thomas Davison. He is a beloved children's book writer who has been capturing the hearts and imaginations of young readers for many years. With a passion for storytelling and a talent for creating memorable characters, he has become a leading voice in the world of children's literature. Inspired by his own experiences and the wonder of the world around him, Thomas creates stories that are both entertaining and educational, encouraging young readers to explore their own feelings and beliefs. Say, Thomas, Lena, and Bennie, welcome. As I say, welcome back to the conversation with Al McFarlane.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, WD.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I'm going to start out because they say it's always a pleasure to have you back with you. I love children's books, as I mentioned, and the reason why at the very beginning. So that being said, I want to know, what have you been up to since the last time you were on the show? So any one of you can jump in. Okay, I'll say.
I'm a gentleman, so ladies first.
Okay.
Okay, I'll begin. Well, as you said, I just released my second book. It's called My Rainbow Days, and it is an exploration of Imani and the Fox and her daily schedule. And with this book, I've really worked to bring in the multi-generational aspect of children's books. I wanted to make sure that we are including parents and grandparents in the storytelling and making sure that from the cultural perspective of young African American children, we explore the fact that our moms and our grandmothers are still involved and in different ways culturally now than they were years ago. And so I'm celebrating grandmothers with this book.
Oh, wow.
I
Great.
am a grandmother
Wow.
of 10 myself, and so
Oh,
I have a lot of experience in that
Oh,
field.
boy. Oh, wow. Well, I'll
yeah.
go next.
Yes.
My goal and the in my heart, I really believe that the book that I wrote should be a TV series. So I've been working towards trying to manifest that particular desire. So I think that the stories, because they are short stories, I think they would easily be able to display and transfer over to a video TV type setting venue. And that's what I've been working on.
Awesome, Benny.
Yeah.
Brother
Yeah, trying to
Thomas.
discover what medium your particular project should be in is kind of a tricky thing, and
Yes.
sometimes you just really got to push after what you want to see as a visionary of your works, right? In order to see it
Yes.
manifest.
Thank you for saying that. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, but I'm sure you're on the right path if that's what God has put into your heart. I'm Thomas Davison. My last book was My Girl Gigi, which talked about a young lady who liked to double dutch. And she ended up with a tough decision in trying to figure out whether or not she was going to Disney World with her grandmother and little brother Picklehead, or going to her competition, and the decision that she had to make in that situation. I'm continuing that as a series. My next book will be My Brother Picklehead. And it's about just learning about your reality, the world around you, and knowing that you can go as far as your imagination can take you.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing, amazing,
Sure.
amazing. Yes. When I read all your books, it inspires me since I'm in the process of writing my own children's book. So I give you a hat tip.
Good luck.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
now, what do you enjoy most in being a Black author?
I think the one thing that I enjoy most is giving young children, because my books are directed towards early childhood education, but giving young Black children a mirror in which to see themselves and their experiences. I think that when I sit with children and show them the book and they can see themselves, it validates them. It builds their self-efficacy, how they feel about themselves. And it can also build their self-esteem about how the children around them see them. And so I think the biggest joy for me is seeing that in my own grandchildren when I read books to them. My last book I dedicated to my grandson, and I gave him the book and I said, "Can you please read this?" And he started with the dedication, and it says, "To Sean, my grandson, our rainbow baby." And it just, to see him light up like that, he felt like this book is about a little girl, but I am such a part of it. And I could see his rainbow spirit come out when he just read those words to himself. And so providing that mirror for children gives me the biggest joy in the world. And, we don't do this for money. So
Right.
we do it for
That's
that
right.
smile.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, for
Okay.
me, it was just living out my purpose, number one, and contributing to what I feel I was here on earth to do. So because my book is trying to instill values at a young age, and I've already lived that life, I feel like I'm giving back. And everything I've gone through will assist or help some child read the book, create, get a value instilled in them, and then have a peaceful, meaningful life. And then they can just pass it on. So it's given me the most joy.
I'll echo everything the ladies have said. For me, it's just it's a joy of seeing a child smile, and I just try to keep everything simple. But it's also watching them read. There's such joy in finding children that love to read, but you also can see those that struggle with it, and you want to help them cure that problem, because reading is one of the biggest tools in their toolbox of life, right? So if you don't have that skill, sitting down, reading to them helps, or reading with them helps. And it doesn't matter what age they are, because you'll find people that are not that strong in their reading. You'll find them of all ages. So yeah, you really got to take your time with it. And then it just makes you proud, right? I mean, people congratulate you on being an author. They're amazed, even in this day and age, that, you as a Black person could write something or have something come to life. So I just really enjoy all of it. I am just blessed. And like you said, we do not do it for the money.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Yeah, so given that, how does African American children's books teach respect for diversity and inclusion?
Whew, that is a big one. Well, I think initially, all children deserve to see themselves in literature. Every child should be able to pick up a book and open it and see something that represents them, their experiences, their life, and the people in their community. When we can read a book with a child that shows their own experiences, or even the experience of a friend, we are able to build a sense of sympathy and empathy among people. When children share their culture in a classroom or at home or in any setting, we encourage them to be able to have a conversation and to accept our differences and our likes. And I think that, there's a saying that everything I learned that was important, I learned in kindergarten. And I think it's because most times when we introduce children into these early childhood settings, we ask that they each bring in a part of their culture and diversity. And in sharing that, we can get them to really understand and accept each other's likenesses and differences.
Thank you, Lena. Any?
Yes, my book too is for children. Is targeted towards children ages 6 to 10. So that's that developing, right at the beginning age. And Lena, I would love to talk to you more about that. But they're able to, the little stories, there's like classrooms and there's home. And so I think they'll be able to relate to different settings. And so if I can get my book in a Sunday school class, where you've got a group, then it can be discussed, it can be, passed on and shared, and the stories can, just kind of continue on and grow and move on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For me, I grew up in the era of Dick and Jane, right?
Mhm.
Runs up the hill, Jane runs up the hill, whatever that was. But there was
Yes,
no one that looked like me in any of those books, right?
That's right.
that's true, right? So true.
Yeah, and I think today it's just about creating stories and realities that allow kids to start a conversation amongst themselves, cross-cultural conversations. You'll find in today's world that we're so blended, especially in America, we're blended, and each one of our stories are worth value. And I think for young Black kids, just building that self-esteem, as the ladies have said, but also letting them know that we see you,
Yes.
and that we live what you're living, and we understand what you're living, and there's nothing to be apologetic for. We have our own culture and we do our own things. And I think that they walk away with a little bit of proudness about them when someone tells their story, So for me, I get a lot of gratification out of that.
Ah, definitely most appreciated. Now, actually, going back to my very first book chat Thursday, I had an author and her name is Crown Shepherd, who's also a Black children's book author. And during the course of that show, what came up was about how the failure rate in reading came among Black boys. And when they asked what was the main reason for that, for Black boys going so hard behind the reading, the children said, "I don't see anyone who looks like me in any of the books." So I want to ask you each individually how you've addressed that concern in your work.
Well, I would say that in being a teacher in an early childhood classroom, we would choose books. And I would say that 85% of the books either had a non-person of color or an animal as the lead in the book. And so that was something that I wanted to change. And the reason why I used a female primarily is because it's after my granddaughter, Imani, and my experiences in homeschooling her. But in thinking about classrooms, there were not a lot of African-American girl leads. And if there were, they were either princesses or wanting to be a princess, or there was a stereotype of what that lead should be. There's a child, his name is Sidney Keys. And if you know Sidney Keys, he is an African-American boy who wasn't seeing himself in books. And he decided to start a group, a reading group, or a book club called Books for Bros. And Books for Bros kind of took off once the celebrities understood what he was doing and how he was engaging more Black boys to read books, because he actively sought out books that represented him and his community. And so once he got really popular, it really encouraged a good following, and more African-American boys started reading. And so it was a joy to see that.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah. Almost the same here. I chose my character because the time I wrote the book, there wasn't a lot of African American characters, that were in the book. So it's we were on the same mindset. So I wanted the name to have like an African American tone, but still be universal. And so that's exactly, what I did. And then the stories, the stories are universal. So the situations that my lead character finds herself in could happen to anyone. So yeah, so that was my thought pattern.
Okay, and for me, my girl Gigi introduces her little brother Picklehead, and he's just anybody's little brother, right? But in my next book, my little brother Picklehead is the name of the book. It accelerates the young Black child's experiences, his friendships. He discovers a superhero from another planet because his imagination allows him to take him there. And the ultimate one comes, and he's also Black, which just personifies that. I grew up reading Marvel comic books, as a lot of young Black youth did. That's probably what kept me reading, right? I mean, we'd read one, and then we'd have to wait till the next month for one to come out, the Hulk and Iron Man, all that stuff. But I think that there's still a market, or still a void there for young Black children to have superheroes that they can call their own and see things from their lens. So I'm hoping that I can get these written and get them published. But I'm self-publishing, which is a little bit more of a challenge. But I'm just stay at it, like you said. You just got to keep going.
Oh, want to give a shout out to Michelle, one of our regular listeners and viewers. Hey, Michelle, it's good to have you back.
Hi,
Have you back
Michelle.
with us.
Hi,
Hey.
Michelle.
So, I too was a person reading comic books. I was reading Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, and Supergirl, but not seeing any black superheroes. But of course, you think about the 1950s and 1960s. Okay, where are you? Where are you?
Yes.
But well, now they talk about Wakanda forever,
Forever and ever.
ever and ever. So
Yeah.
so
You know, I
now-
grew up watching Zoom in the 70s. And I remember on Zoom is where I first saw The Amazing Spider-Man.
Mhm.
And for a long time, my grandchildren didn't know what Spider-Man was until the Marvel series came out. And just recently, this last Spider-Man movie came out, and it's the Spider-Verse, where it has an African-American boy in the lead. And
Yes,
so
yes.
now they are excited about Spider-Man.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we're sitting there, and I'm thinking about Zoom in 1972, and they're thinking about Spider-Man from 2024. And it's just that that disconnect, all that in between that had to take place in order for us to be now again on the same page with superheroes.
But it shows you also what Kamala has been saying, right? That we're more alike than we are different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
So them wanting to be that superhero, wanting to be something good,
Yes.
I think is important to every young person. But I also notice that you've got to start them out young, and you've got to, the younger, the better. So I really encourage people to read to their kids that aren't at that age of reading yet.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I think a lot of young men don't have that sometimes, or maybe they just don't have the patience to sit and listen to a story or something like that. But it's important to encourage them and make sure that they understand how important it is for them to learn to read.
Yes.
That
Yes.
is so true.
In this age of computers and immediate gratification, we don't have the patience to read 30 pages in a children's book anymore. We want it now, and we want it done.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I agree.
And that's what, for me, what I did when my son was a baby. I read to him every night
Mhm.
before he went to bed. So it was a part of our routine. And okay, being the proud papa I am, they had a reading contest in his elementary school, insofar as who could read the most books. So out of all of his classmates, I think this was either maybe third grade or something like that, because the two of us would be reading together at night before he went to bed. So he always had the books to read. So yes, in the entire third grade class, he came up number 2 in 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he of course he wanted to be number 1. But I'm saying, considering how much we were reading, I said that's awesome.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'd like to ask this too. Who were your mentors? Who were the ones that inspired you to travel down the road of definitely producing, writing, and sharing Black children's books?
Well, WD, I come from a family of teachers. My mother is a teacher. I have 3 aunts that are teachers.
Wow.
My grandmother was a teacher. My great aunts are teachers. And I'll be honest with you, I tried to run from being a teacher. I wanted to be a lawyer and a doctor and everything except a teacher. And God said, no, you're going to teach. And so I think that in watching those women, not only read to me, but to read to other children. My grandmother was a teacher of special needs children, and where she performed most of their needs every day, from feeding them to cleaning them to escorting them on and off the school bus and being with them in the classroom. And she would, even if they were off in their own space, she was still there and reading and reciting, and they were hearing her in their own time and in their own doing. And I just thought to myself, wow, she's reaching people. She's reaching these children. Even if it doesn't seem like she is, she is.
Mhm.
And I think that my mom had high school children. And, being early childhood, I said, "Ooh, that's a different breed of folks." And so even in her teaching them, she had English classes and she would assign readings to them, and she was so excited about the books that she was going to present to these high school kids that they became excited about it also.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I think after I retired from teaching, I said, I want to make sure that I'm putting into early childhood classrooms what I didn't see there. And that was books about little Black girls and little Black boys written by Black authors, not just the big ones that got thousands of copies sold, but the ones that sit on the bottom shelf in the bookstore, because those are stories. And those are the stories that the children need to hear, as well as the stories that sold millions of copies. So
Mhm.
that's my motivation.
Very nice. Yeah.
Wonderful,
Thanks,
wonderful.
I grew up in a really small town in Arkansas, so there wasn't a whole lot to do. But my teachers were they were excellent teachers. So reading was just always forefront. It was expected. So I really appreciate my education that I received in grammar school back then, because it's like Thomas said, it starts off young. Once you start off reading and enjoying it, and in a small town, and you just continue those habits and those expectations and those disciplines, and throughout your life.
That is so true.
Hmm. So good teacher.
Okay. So for me, it was my parents who both felt like they were undereducated as far as schooling goes, but always challenged me to be better than they were, or get more education than they had. So it was important for me to try to do that at a young age. Try to pay attention to the movies that tell you don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, and that sort of thing. So I became probably one of the squarest kids in class, right? Because I was always trying to do the right thing. To this day, I can pull up a picture of myself with my little badge on from being a patrolman and that sort of thing in the sixth grade, and I was proud of that. And education and knowledge is something that
Hmm.
no one can ever take that away from you. So to be that person, to be able to help others, and to help them get along, get above where they were, and things like that. I commend your mother for taking that challenge on with people, but it's very gratifying and rewarding to yourself too, to know that you've helped someone.
That's right.
That's true, and that's so appreciated. Now, Benny, I have one question for you, because
Yes.
the ABCs, one,
Yes.
I love the way you weave scriptural teachings into the book. So what
Yes.
what has been the response to your book? Because that is so important.
Yes. I think that some of the younger children, it's like it's all about the story. I'm not sure if they're really connecting the scriptures,
Mhm.
but if the book is in a Sunday school setting, I'm hearing, this relates. So the Sunday school teacher can us- can take the scripture and then just impact it and go into it a little bit deeper. So that's important. But two different things, the kids' point of view, their perspective, and then the teacher's point of perspective. I did receive a review from a mother that said, I learned something from this book. So even though it's directed towards the children, the stories are so relatable that I think that anyone can get a inspiration and encouragement from the story. And then, as an adult, you look up the scripture, you can even read further and get a better impact on what the scripture is.
Yeah, I
So
like
yeah,
it.
it limits the book because of because of the fact that it is I don't want to say religious, but it does have scriptures and it is biblical. So it puts it in a totally different category. So I'm, navigating through that. But for me, that's what I wanted it to be, no matter where it lands. That's the tone and the message that I need to get out.
You're doing God's work. That's all.
Yes, yes, yes.
Indeed,
And you
indeed,
mentioned,
indeed.
Thomas mentioned self-esteem, and that was like the first story that I wrote. That S was for
Yes.
self-esteem. So yeah, just wanted to throw that out there.
Wait.
Most appreciated.
Yeah.
So this is something that we've, part of us have heard things about news and those sort of things. But how have book bans affected African American literature?
So, especially for BIPOC and Black and Brown people and the LGBT community, they've been targeted the most in book bans. The large percentage of book bans that have been registered are registered by people who haven't read the book. And so that speaks mounds to what people understand about the books that we're banning. It takes a heavy toll on history, and specifically African American history, history of, minorities in general. And it also limits what we can expose our children to. If we trust parents enough to monitor what our children see online when they do research or when they're playing video games, the amount of violence they see, we should be able to trust parents in guiding children through the literature that they would like to read. And again, with the history aspect, it just takes away from the written word when we're passing down norms and cultures and things that we want to pass on to our children. The book I Am Ruby Bridges is a wonderful, beautiful children's book that's been banned. And I couldn't imagine a classroom with any race of children or any culture of children in it that didn't read that book, because not only is it about her personal experiences, but it's history. And once we can help children see the experiences of others, that promotes diversity and it breeds tolerance. And if we can start those communications where children are experiencing each other's experiences, then they can become engaged, even as early as 3 years old. I've been in early childhood classrooms where they've shared someone's culture. So I had an experience one time where I asked all of my children, everybody, to bring a recipe that included rice. And every nationality in my classroom bring a different recipe with rice. And it was wonderful. And we shared, and it just brought it brought the children together in a way that I didn't imagine could happen in a classroom. And so when we ban books, we take away that opportunity for us as just people to come together and be tolerant and understanding and to participate in each other's cultures and lives. It's so important right now. And I think that's a big part of what's missing. And we need to make sure that sharing of culture and experiences remains. We need to trust parents more. If we're trusting them with the internet and we're trusting them with the video games, we can trust them with books.
Yes.
Yeah. It's definitely an opportunity for us. We all have to stick together. It takes a village. So we're going to have to come up with some creative ways to continue with, the history that we learned, the history books. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but I do think that it's an opportunity. And I don't know who's going to get involved, but we have to find a way. We have to find a way. Parents, I mean, even I just don't know. But we've got to find a way to get. We have to put all the books on TikTok. I don't know, and however we can get the children to be able to have access to history.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like the truth is sometimes a hard pill to swallow for some. Depends on what that truth is, but it's important that it be told. It's important for our kids to learn the truth in America. I mean, it wasn't until maybe a year or so ago that I was doing some reading and I found out that there were like 14 million slaves. Why, as a youth, I knew there was slavery, but I never knew there were 14 million slaves in the country at one time, right? And I'm like, I'm an adult now and I'm just learning this. That's either due to me not reading or that material not really being out there like that, right? But we have got to be able to own our problems. We've got to be able to own our history. We've got to be able to parent, like you were saying. Parenting is everything. And I know there was a generation of kids that had kids, but that's been going on forever, right? But it's really important to be an active part in your child's life and to not hide the truth from them, but to open up those discussions with them.
Right.
That is so true.
Yeah. And I mean, everything's on YouTube. I mean, will they ban it, from is it banned from video? How can we get, the books to maybe a different medium and access that way?
It's a new world out there. I love new mediums. I mean, you can find anything on YouTube, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
New, old, whatever.
We just lost James Earl Jones and we just lost John Amos. And everybody's covering their work in their lifetimes. And not once have I heard anyone mention the magnificent work they did in Roots. We've heard every other movie they were involved in, but I have not seen a snippet or anything. And I remember growing up watching Roots in the sixth grade classroom. And now I could ask one of my grandchildren, have they ever heard of Roots? They haven't even heard of it. And we covered Star Wars and we covered The Lion King and all of these things. We covered Good Times, but not once have there been a mention of Roots. And that body of work is worth mentioning and it's worth reading and it's worth the magnificence that it had.
A good tough pill to swallow for some.
What if there was a streaming channel of just history? You know how we have Netflix and a streaming channel of Black history.
We have a history channel.
Yes. 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 But we could have
speaking of that, I just came across this by accident because you're looking for Black history and a brother who is Jamaican born, but he's living in the U.S., produced a Black gay history channel in terms of representation mattering. And I'm looking at it. Wow, I didn't know. These are things I didn't know about.
Yeah.
And stuff. They talk about the history on the continent going back thousands and thousands of years and showing about, Black LGBT people have been there all the time. It's just that when white colonialists showed up, they brought the homophobia in, and that's what we're dealing with the consequences today. But yes, a live streaming Black history channel, I would love to see that. Now,
you got to also remember you're living in Minnesota, which shields you from a lot of different things, right? I mean, your experience would be different had you been living in a more diverse environment, but Minnesota shields you from a lot of things. Sadly, it homogenizes your life in some ways.
Yes.
I actually lived in 5 different states, so I was able to see a lot of different things and experience a lot of different cultures and the way people did things. So I felt that that was like prerequisite for me writing my book, because I've been around. I've lived in the north, I've lived in the south, I've lived in the east, haven't lived in the west yet, but that yeah.
Yeah.
So on that note, since
Mhm.
Benny, you shared some of your history stuff. So Thomas, Lena, tell us a little more about where you grew up and how you grew up.
So I grew up in Chicago, Illinois. First, initially on the north side, which was extremely diverse. It was a wonderful opportunity where I got to experience so many different kinds of people. When they say that America is the melting pot, the north side of Chicago is a representative of that melting pot. There are so many cultures, so many different people from so many different places. And once I became a teacher, I worked for a nonprofit called Christopher House, and that school was a representation of that. I would say in my classroom, I had at least in 20 kids, 15 different cultures and people from different places, families from different places. Then we moved to the South Side, and it was a little bit different, and there was more of us in that area. And so the experience differed a little bit in the education that I received. And then in going to high school, I went to high school in downtown Chicago, where once again, I got to experience that melting pot. And so I think that has helped me as an adult and in writing books that are for African American children, yet any child can read it and experience and benefit from it and even see themselves in it. So I just had an experience where I had my book Naptime. Now, this book has won 14 awards, and I got it put in a bookstore here where I live in Duluth. And they called me recently to come and pick it up because it had not sold. It sold one book, and that book was bought by my husband. And so in the demographics of things, I think that I'm not sure how that helped me or hindered me in thinking that I could sell a Black book in a community that didn't have a lot of diversity, but it's been humbling. It's been an experience. So, but yes, my upbringing was very diverse, and I got to see so many people. And I married my husband, and he's in the military. So we've lived in 8 states, and the ability to see cultures and to have traveled the world has been a wonderful experience. And I think it's brought me full circle.
Amen.
Well, for me, I was born and raised here in the Twin Cities, St. Paul, specifically in the Midway area. But my experience as a youth was we were bused out to the Como neighborhoods, those school systems out there. And to be honest with you, the people out there didn't want us out there at that time, right?
Well,
and weren't apologizing for not wanting us, just you know, there was a lot of interaction, a lot of fights. I remember having white friends when I was in elementary school, but when we made the jump to junior high school, they let me know that they would no longer be my friend, that they had to, because of their parents' derivatives, that telling them you can't be friends anymore, that sort of thing. I remember walking to school one morning, and as you walked up the hill, you ended up in the baseball field, which led to the school. And there was something written in big letters on the school. And as I got closer, it was "Nigger season opens today, no limit." And I remember that. And that was in response to a young lady who some people just jumped on her the day before for no reason and that sort of thing. So you had a lot of that stuff going on back and forth. There were lines, certain lines you just didn't cross, certain areas and neighborhoods that you didn't cross. University Avenue in St. Paul was a line that the whites would not cross over because they knew that that was all of ours. But at the same time, Rice Street in that area was theirs, and you didn't go up there unless you wanted to deal with the Hells Angels and that sort of thing. So it was interesting. My dad taught me, though, that he was a guy that could communicate with anyone. So he'd take me fishing a lot and that sort. And we would just meet and greet people, be yourself. Don't let anyone steal your joy. Don't let anyone define you. And those things, those principles that he instilled in me, I think have helped me even today. So
awesome. Well, yeah, we all come from very diverse backgrounds. Yes, Thomas. I was on the other side of the river, and I knew blacks did not go to Northeast Minneapolis.
Oh, Northeast.
You didn't go there.
No,
and then and of course, they were more vocal about it than if you went to Southwest Minneapolis.
Right.
Yeah, that was a different thing. So I trust that all of you have copies of your books, because I'd like each of you to share a little excerpt from your work.
I'll let the ladies go. I gotta go grab one. Hang on a second.
That's okay.
Okay. Would you like to start, Bennie?
Oh, sure, I can start.
Great.
So my book is entitled ABCs of Life Stories of Tamika. There is a letter for each word of the alphabet. So it starts from A to S or A to Z. And I'm going to start with the letter S. And it's for self-esteem. So here we go. Tamika started every Saturday morning with a bowl of cornflakes piled high with sugar and milk. She was careful not to wake her little sister. She knew that if her sister Tasha woke up, there would be no way she could let her watch the tall ladies with the long dresses on TV. Tasha wanted to watch those dumb old cartoons. Cartoons are okay sometimes, but not down the runway. Tamika secretly thought, just like them someday. I know I have to grow taller, I have to slim down, but I have several years. An hour later, Tasha came downstairs and saw Tamika staring at the TV set with wide eyes and mouth open. Tasha went directly to the TV and turned it off. Tamika immediately snapped out of her supermodel fantasy as Tasha began teasing her. You're too fat to be on TV. Tamika felt bad because she always felt fat, but she knew how to hold back the tears. At school, there were times that Barry would make jokes that hurt her feelings. And at school, there were times that she felt like a large girl and that was called Miss Piggy, and the skinniest girl, Courtney, was called Olive Oil. Why do I have to go through this torture at home and at school? Tamika thought. I'll show them. Someday I'll be on TV like all those beautiful ladies. Sunday morning came early. Tamika woke up thinking tomorrow is school already. Boy, my weekend is almost over. Back to school, back to the teasing. Well, I better get up and get ready for Sunday school. I don't want to be late and have Mrs. Davis mark me tardy. Mrs. Davis had been teaching Sunday school for many years. She had seen so many children come through church. She knew that all children were good and the best had to be brought out of each one. She believed that each child had an individual person and that God did not make junk. Good morning, Mrs. Davis said to Tamika. Good morning, Tamika. Today we're studying in Genesis. Please read chapter 1, verse 26 to 27. After reading the scripture, Tamika said under her breath, "It's right here in the scripture. God created me in his image and accepts me for who I am." At that moment, Tamika received the message that no one has a perfect face or body and that God made each of us different. From that day forward, she vowed that she would not let anyone get under her skin. She thought, the next time they call me fat, I will tell them, God don't make junk. After all, God gave me a talent to sing. When Tamika got home that morning, she told Tasha that she forgave her for calling her fat yesterday, even though it hurt inside. I learned this morning that the way I look on the outside is not as important as the way I look on the inside. Tasha, you're my sister. I love you. Tasha responded, Tamika, I love you, and I will never call you fat again. Tamika had the last word by saying, we're created in God's image. Each of us have a purpose in life. You concentrate on yours, and I will concentrate on mine.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank
Lena?
you. Thank you for your
Very
time.
Thank you, Benny. Thank you.
Okay, here is my book, My Rainbow Days.
Yes.
My Sunday hat is red when Grandma and I have tea. We sip our cups with pinkies up as she whispers sweet secrets to me. My Monday hat is orange. I smell it in the orange trees. I look to see what fruit they bear. May I have some orange juice, please? My Tuesday hat is yellow. It shades me in the sun. The fox and I go romp and play to the edge and flow of fun. My Wednesday hat is green, and I painted a tree with grass. My teacher looks, she's proud of me, and she shares it with the class. My Thursday hat is blue, like clouds that move in the sky. The thunder rolls and lightning strikes look like angels as they fly. My Friday hat is indigo, like a ribbon black with stars. Through my eyes, they're shining bright like the headlights of a million cars.
Okay.
My Saturday hat is violet with flowers of satin and lace. The fox shows me she loves me with a lick across my face. The fox and I, we know our colors, we practice every day. We paint magnificent rainbows before we go out to play. The fox wants to show her work, so I put her art on the wall. There are so many pretty rainbows, they fill the entire hall. When I want to give Grandma a present, I say I have a surprise. She loves my art so very much, she has loving tears in her eyes. I tell her about my rainbow days, they mean so much to me. Sunday red, Monday orange, Tuesday yellow, you see. Wednesday green, Thursday blue, I love having fun with you. Friday indigo and Saturday violet, now my rainbow days are through. And that's the end. And of course, it has a lesson plan and activities for parents and teachers to do with the kids. The end.
Nice.
Well done. Very nice. Very nice.
Very nice. Very adorable.
Beautiful.
Very nice.
Hey, Thomas, you're up, and I thank you.
So this is my girl Gigi. I don't know if you can see it or not. And I'll just read a little bit here. As they sat at the table for dinner, which consisted of turkey, mashed potatoes and gravy, corn, and Granny's special biscuits, Granny began to speak. I'm an old woman, but I'm not too old to experience new and exciting things. I have saved money most of my life by putting a little bit away each week until I have had enough to reach my goal. Well, that day is today. My goal has been reached, and I'm taking you both to Disney World. Both kids began to scream with excitement, Disney World! Picklehead then jumped up and started to dance. I'm going to Disney World! I'm going to Disney World! He proclaimed. Gigi was also excited and raised both arms in the air as if she had just won the lottery. When do we leave? Asked Gigi. The second Saturday of next month, replied Granny. Just then is when Gigi's arms began to deflate slowly until they rested by her side. With tears filling her eyes and a crackle in her voice, she says quietly, I can't go. I have the double Dutch competition and I can't miss it. She then runs to her room and closes the door. Granny is left at the table with Picklehead, staring at one another in silence. Granny had made the mistake of booking their dream vacation on the same day as the double Dutch competition. What are we going to do? Picklehead asked Granny, with a quizzical look on his face. Are we just not going to go? Granny took a deep breath and then took a deeper breath, releasing it slowly. Things will work out somehow, she said, to try and comfort Picklehead. Granny went to Gigi's room to console her, but she had cried herself to sleep. A very long day of excitement and heartache had come to an end. And I'll leave it there.
All right. No, more to come.
I give a hand to all of you. You have your amazing talents and gifts for children's books. So now, for our viewers, where can we purchase your books?
So my books are available on Amazon, in Books A Million, and Barnes & Noble online. We are working towards Target and Walmart, but not yet. And also, if you send me an email at booksbythebee@gmail.com, I will send you an autographed copy with an Imani doll to go with it.
Oh, very nice. My books are available at www.booksbybennie.com, and they're also available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
And my books are at www.mygirlgigi.com. I have not explored, I used to explore Amazon a little bit. I do have a second book. It is Daddy, Can You Hear Me? I got to always give a shout out to Daddy, Can You Hear Me? It's my first book.
Yes.
And to me, it's a treasure. But yeah, I'm still trying to grow my marketing and that sort of thing, my marketing strategies, because it is tough. But yeah, www.mygirlgigi.com. This is what you'll be greeted with. Let's be
Oh,
GG.
nice.
Hey.
Thank you.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
now, in our closing minutes of the show, I asked a question that I'm going to ask all of my authors. What advice would you give your 13-year-old self from where you are now?
I would say, Lena, write those books and write them right now. Take an art class so you can draw that texture of hair that you're so desperately seeking to portray in your books, and do it all right now.
I agree with Lena. I waited 20-something years, and I just probably could have went, done it a lot sooner, a lot faster, but I guess better late than never. But don't ever give up. Follow your dream, follow your passion.
And for me, I would grab myself by the shirt collar and say, believe, just believe.
That's right.
And make it happen. Or as Nike says, just do it. Truly, just do it. I think that we all probably share the same experience that we come from, that we never imagined that we could do it.
Yes.
And we've got to get over that hump, because it is possible, and the universe will make it happen if it's to be.
And thanks to WD, we can all be together and network and
network,
love each other,
right?
and encourage each other to write more books.
Yeah.
Thank you, WD.
I hope to have a relationship with all of you after this. So,
Definitely.
I've enjoyed this hour. Thank you.
Yeah, they say we could probably continue for another hour.
I think so.
Indeed, it has definitely been such a pleasure to have all of you together, so we can talk about passion that we have, that we love for the children's books. It was just said earlier, we don't do it for the money. We do it for the joy and the love that we have to inspire children, to engage them, and say, hey, and I guess it is important that we start early.
Yeah.
And just if I will put my advice to my 13-year-old self was in three things. One, you're never too old or too young to achieve your dreams. Two, believe in dreams and never give up, because just because it didn't happen in 5 seconds doesn't mean it's going to happen down the line. And one other thing I did say is, and when you do become that success that you achieve, to find a way to pay it forward. And so we are going to close for now, but I do want my authors just to stay online afterwards. But this is W.D. Foster Graham for the Conversation with Al McFarlane, and guest special shout out to our guests Lena Bee, Bennie Brown, and Thomas Davison. See you in the next go round.
See you next go round.
Bye-bye.